Oseo.
Oseo.
Good Cherokee greeting. We're starting right off here today with an announcement from Indian Country Today. It's very interesting, in short. A groundbreaking lawsuit was filed in the White Earth Nations Tribal Court defending the rights of wild rice to fight the construction of yet another pipeline. The United Nations released its sixth assessment on climate change. So the UN report includes an entire chapter dedicated to the powerful role that indigenous knowledge can play in global development of adaptation and mitigation strategies aimed at addressing the climate change. Boom! The report's release created the perfect public moment to exert tribal sovereignty and advance the legal theory that nature itself, in this case, wild rice, has the right to exist and flourish even in the face of the construction of a massive infrastructure transporting fossil fuel. The so-called rights of nature argument recognizes that nature has rights just as human beings have rights, rather than treating nature as property under the law. Rights of nature cases contend that nature, rivers, forests, and ecosystems have the right to exist, flourish, maintain, and regenerate their life cycles. Further, humans have a legal responsibility to enforce those rights. So that's really unique to come up with that. Of course, as of Friday, the court, sided with the, whatever you call it, the corporate infrastructure of fossil fuel. But the idea being put forward there. And following that, this is a brand new book. I just got it up there in the Vining. How to Be Animal. Our troubled relationship with being animal and why we need a better one, by Melanie Challenger. Really, really comprehensive. I guess she's an English woman, that's where she's writing from. So that's something. And one line that's very apt here. We humans, we are half animal and half symbolic. I think that is really concise, very, very concise. And this poem that she has, heading the last chapter in part. To put a hand on its brow of the flower and retell it in words and in touch. Tell it that it is lovely until it flowers again from within of self-blessing. That was Galway Kinnell, 1950 poet that she begins her book with. And that's to sort of inaugurate, this idea of animal. And mainly today we're in India. And in India, I had previously mentioned in my looking at the Mediterranean and the feminine cultures that existed there and their demise under the interest of masculine-dominated culture until practically nothing of woman or the feminine culture exists at all. Only the heroics of the god kings and what they did. But in India, it has continued, and it has amazingly continued in diverse ways and from very, very anciently. And one of the first things I want to show, right there on that subject, if you can just locate right here to this picture, then I can explain that. I've replicated this. Several, many, what they call carvings into steatite seals, seems to be what they are, so they're not very big. And this one in particular I've chosen out of a series. In the series, it shows a woman, she's in a tree, that she actually looks like she's a tree nymph, like that. And the tree, this is the tree here. This is a neem tree or a sami tree. It's very well known for its medicinal properties. You know, it has healing oils and bark and all those kind of things. So it's a very, very significant tree. So in the series, you know, she's in the tree. And then she almost looks like she's really a part of the tree herself. And then she's beginning to beckon at a distance to a wild animal, apparently a tiger. And eventually, like it's almost a sequence, that she's out of the tree and she seems to be dancing with the tiger. And the tiger seems to be having antlers that look like the branches of the tree, and the woman now has the horns of a buffalo, and she has hooves and claws, you know. So she's in some process of transformation until we come to this one that I've replicated here, that here she is now been transformed as part of the tiger. So she's the tiger. She has the horns of the buffalo or ox, and she's pulling her hair or her braid that seems to be a signature from ancient times of these ancient women. And then here you have the tree like that. So there's a series of these, and it's from about 5,000–6,000 years ago. So there are letters of some kind on these seals, but I don't think anybody has been able to decipher them to tell us what is going on there. And it's at a time that is so long ago, it's hard to actually imagine that these ideas or motifs continued into, well, Hinduism. Hinduism, let's say a couple thousand years ago, and so forth. But these things were uncovered recently in archaeology, so there's no way that modern people of any age of being modern would have ever known them. And yet, the theme and the subjects have continued there. So even if I go down here and you look at this while I'm on that subject, this is from the same collection of these seals, and this is believed to be the proto-Shiva. The proto-Shiva with the tiger, and there is a modern devotee's picture of Shiva. He's sitting on a tiger's skin. So that's all the way that I'm introducing this particular subject about the tiger. And since in particular, since March and Women's Month and Women's Week and everything, in one way or another, am bringing, extolling really, the feminine. And that's the way I'm bringing that in here. And let me start right here with this reading. Kama. Kama. Kama means desire in the Indian language. If someone were to know the person whose dwelling is desire, whose world is the heart, and whose light is the mind, the ultimate refuge of every self, he would truly be a knower. I know the person you speak of, the ultimate refuge of every self, and he is the person made of desire. So tell me, Coyote, who is his deva? Women, I said. There you have it. That's what I'm about here. And this particular subject is showing, especially at this time, we'll call her the Indian goddess Durga. Now, Durga is indigenous. Yes, she has been assimilated into Hinduism, but not Buddhism. And we mentioned Buddhism. Buddhism, to think of it, is in northern India. It's come from Gautama. It's Buddha, Mr. Buddha. He is an Aryan, an Iranian. His clan, the Sakya, is an Iranian clan. the language that he's delivered his teachings in is East Iranian. His whole topic is one of transcending this life, transcending the animal, transcending nature. It's prompted along by teachings of intentional ambiguity to reach an apex of Aryan thinking, an Aryan meaning of idea called nirvana, or poetically, a bell ringing in an empty sky, or moksha. So in every way it is to get beyond the animal of ourself, even through something like symbolical gymnastics that it couches itself in, and so forth. So, and all of that is in northern India. And northern India is also mainly patriarchal. And it is also the main continuation or inheritor of the Vedic Aryans, and all of that. So even into the modern time of a Buddhism, the Shin Buddhism of Japan there, that greatly extols Amida Buddha. It's the Japanese name for the Buddha. That Amida Buddha, as the Buddha of light, is none other than Ahura Mazda, the Iranian god of light. So all of that, you can see what it is. And women didn't really have much of a place. In fact, women don't really have much of a place in any of the dominating or male-dominated ideologies, religions, or what have you. Why is that? It's because she can't get rid of her animal nature. She conceives and gives birth and gives milk the same as all animals. So that's a real contention with, the sky-conceived gods up there in the empty sky and so forth. So you kind of get the idea. But curiously, somehow in India, even as the feminine, if I can use that way to understand, has continued from remotest antiquity like that. Some of that has been assimilated into a branch of Buddhism called Tantra. Tantra is from a verb, to weave, almost like her hair braid, to weave. And that's what I see in this picture of her. She's holding her woven hair braid. And that seems to be a kind of an iconic feature of the even pre-Hindu goddesses or priestesses and so forth. So in the Tantrism, something else has continued with women. What's happened was all of the elemental powers and forces and everything of the original woman's culture has been sublimated into Buddhism, so that those dynamic features like, anger, for one, are all being sublimated into ideals of Buddhism. But that is one sector where the feminine and women are very evident and seem very, very strong to this day. That it really is different than the patriarchal Buddhism. Rita Gross, authored a book called Buddhism After Patriarchy. Well, that's kind of funny, because Buddhism after patriarchy, either it would only be the women of the tantric, or we would be done with Buddhism. So kind of like that. Now if you can just, well, first of all, I want to say this is my drawing here. I very, very much like it. And along with this idea of woman's transformation, all this scene that I'm showing here in the archaic picture, I feel I've rendered it here in my drawing. The whole view or idea that woman has such transformation abilities like that is evidently what these ancient pictures have showed us, because clearly we can make that out even if we don't know the language that it was in. But many, many, many figurines in this ancient civilization, again, incidentally, it's in the Indus Valley, which is now in Pakistan, had only been discovered archaeologically in recent times. So it lay buried for who knows how long. Nobody knows what happened to these cities. You know, that's what they were. They were cities, and they ceased to be inhabited. So we don't know what happened. But many, many figures made of clay, mostly, of the feminine, they're definitely feminine, have been found that one would suppose they were, you know, household idols, high household goddesses, something that has, you know, very vigorously continued in India. Thousands upon thousands of people have them in whatever form. So the idea of women being able to transform in one way or another is always depicted, and I feel that in my drawing here. Now to continue with that, to go over here, this is my illustration, my shield illustration. So we'll go with that. Tiger-faced woman, homage to you. Your tiger face, a shocking storm cloud. You strike terror with your bared teeth shining, tongue lashing, and glaring eyes. I praise you who burns with fiery wisdom, you of tiger skin and necklace, of bone of the signs of the enlightened females. Executioner of obstructions, I praise the female who holds fast to the yogini. Your tiger-striped body terrifies the host of detractors. Your diamond-like mind penetrates ultimate reality. You are the sovereign of enlightened spontaneity in female form, goddess revealing the path to liberation. Homage to you. And that's a good way to start right off with Durga. Before I get there, here centrally, I have this white tiger. Now, in Hawaii, the native culture had a total culture relationship with sharks. It's really fabulous. And the way that, you know, they got to know sharks and so. In this world that I'm referring to here, it was tigers. They had people who had the relations with the tigers. There are tigers of all kinds, you know. And this is the Chitabaga, white tiger, who swallows the sins of the world. So just to know that there is a particularity in the relation of animals there. So all of this subject about how to be animal again, and how that is continued with small societies in Africa, the Bushmen, and here in Mexico, South America, Southwest America, the Yaquis. The Yaquis have a complete culture, even though it's nominally Christian, it still is the animal. The sight of the animal, the image of an animal, the outline of an animal produces something in us that we have a kinship with. That's been tested. That's what I'm referring to. It brings up certain kind of enzymes or something. We definitely have a relationship with animals, no matter how much the society is trying to get away from that, and so forth. So that's very, very significant. And here, let me look at this little piece here. This is very old. This is the kind of thing that are made in India in basically native villages and societies. What's interesting too, this is the tiger, and inside of the tiger is the earth. Earth is put inside of it. The Indians have maintained the relationship of earth as Mother Earth, even as here we in Native America have had that. But the dominant culture doesn't recognize our innate relationship with this earth as a person, as her. In Cherokee, Elehi is the earth, means this world. But personally, Elahina is her, that she is She is our home. And even with the attempt to save the wild rice from the pipeline, so we're seeing that all the time with the people who have taken over here. So we want to have that. And can I go over here to this picture here, so we can see this totally is we would say a holy picture I have there of Durga. Durga is riding on her tiger. Now the name Durga, the main thing about this, why I'm really bringing Durga forward, she is the woman's goddess. She is the one indigenous goddess, deity, whatever, like that, that is untrammeled. She has not been appropriated to any masculine, to anything male. She is, her name sort of means that she is unapproachable. But it's also that unapproachable that has some relation. Sahajiyas is directed towards her like a platonic worship, that we can never, hug her or sit around our lap or that kind of thing. But she is that kind of unapproachable. And comes into existence, evidently, whenever the demons of the men seem to be taking over. That they become so formidable that causes her to manifest. The yoginis are her assistants. They are the women who assist her there. So whenever this crisis or concern has come about in our universal consciousness, then in women, her yoginis, then that's going to be sensed viscerally, probably. And that, I think, maybe is where we are right now. So the tiger, you can see, is a very ancient theme, and she carries many instruments that gives her the qualification of a warrior, a woman warrior. And they have various stories and everything of the battles with these demons that seem to be all male. And the tiger is always there, that somehow we can say symbolizes her ferocity, and untrembled femaleness. Always, she's the goddess warrior there. Can you come over to this piece here while I'm on that subject? It's very, very small, but what I'm illustrating here with this bronze figure here as a human-headed tiger. It's the human-headed tiger of Vidyavasini Durga. Now, the Vidya mountains in central India are inhospitable, and the people who live there, the Subarus, they are not Hindus. There's nothing about this or her that is Hindu, even though the Hindus have acquiesced her into their pantheon, but she remains still indigenous. And the area seems to be almost inaccessible, which lends to her whole sense of meaning. She may have originated in these Vidya mountains, I'm not sure. But interesting, this figure that I've collected here has come about. Now, you've heard of Kali. Kali means black. She's the black aspect of Durga. But how it came about was that Durga was confronted by one of these demonic foes, that was really dangerous like that. And out of Durga's forehead, came out this Kali-faced tiger. This Kali-faced tiger here, who was able to defeat the foe, the enemy. This piece here is around 1200, I would say 800 years old, like that. So it's a precious piece, but it is very illustrative of what I'm talking about. I mean, you can go over here to this piece here, probably from the 15th, 16th century of Durga. She has many arms. It has been worn smooth, the features, from puja, from constant worship, pouring water, oil, or red powder on it. And she's in a famous pose there. She has her spear and she's holding the head of Machina. So this is, Machina is like the chief demon. He's usually figured as coming out of the body of a buffalo. And so her feature there is that, you know, she has his head and she's driving a spear into his head. So you can see a very ancient rendering of her. Even going back, now this is bronze, but going back to, you know, prehistory, the clay forms resemble these forms that are now rendered in metal, so that we can, you see all of that. And I want to bring you over here to, this is another one of my drawings of the, we'll call her the tiger woman. So I have had various feelings in rendering her. All of my art has been in activating, finding, and revealing the many aspects, dimensions, features, appearances of the female person, the woman, the human woman, who has all of this in her that would make, you know, possible, if not legible, the transformation of her in various ways. So that's the way I have all my theme here. Now we have a maybe her last book for Mary Oliver. It's by copyright 2015, so it may be the last of hers. But she's always accompanying me pretty often in my themes here, and I'm just going to go through these poems. This one's titled "The Little Beast." That pretty little beast, a poem, has a mind of its own. Sometimes I want it to crave apples, but it wants red meat. Sometimes I want to walk peacefully on the shore, and it wants to take off all its clothes and dive in. Sometimes I want to use small words and make them important, and it starts shouting the dictionary, the opportunities. Sometimes I want to sum up and give thanks, putting things in order, and it starts dancing around the room on its four furry legs, laughing and calling me outrageous. But sometimes when I'm thinking about you, and no doubt smiling, it sits down quietly, one paw under his chin, and just listens. This is not just surprise and pleasure. This is not just beauty, sometimes too hot to touch. This is not a blessing with a beginning and an end. This is not just a wild summer. This is not conditional. Everything that was broken has forgotten its brokenness. I live now in a sky house, through every window, the sun. Also, your presence are touching our stories, earthy and holy both. How can this be? But it is. Every day has something in it whose name is forever. How do I love you? Oh, this way and that way. Oh, happily, perhaps. I may elaborate by demonstration, like this, and like this, and no more words now.